The verdict of obedience of the Sharia court against a disobedient Muslim wife. This is a love story written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyright. All rights reserved. All characters in this book are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer who may quote brief paragraphs in a review to be printed in newspaper, general magazine, or a school or university journal or a magazine. This is a love story about three Muslim girls who are subjected to gross injustice, severe violence, and abhorrent persecutions by Muslim men, religious leaders and imams, Sharia judges, and police officers in the Muslim community and the religion of Islam, and it is hostile, hateful, and abusive teachings against women's rights, which are innumerable. For example, beating of women, child marriage, circumcision of the private parts of Muslim girls, which is known as female genital mutilation or FGM, slaying them in honor killings, inequality between males and females in inheritance, testimony in court, marriage, divorce, men's guardianship over women, controlling their lives and destinies as if they are minors, physically handicapped, or mentally retarded, and forcing them to wear the abayas, veils, hijabs, niqabs, or the humiliating black burqas as if they are frightening ghosts. Many Islamic countries prevent women from going to schools and work, and they are forbidden to practice any kind of sports. And they are not allowed to go to gymnastics, beaches, or swimming pools, cinemas, or theaters, or acts in movies or plays. And none of them is allowed to leave this house without her husband or with a man. The woman is forbidden to marry such as her father or brother, who is called muhram. They are also not allowed to fall in love with men before marriage or choose their life partners. The story is about three innocent girls, namely Intisar, Firdos, and Muna. Chapter 16. Police transferring the disobedient Muslim wife to the house of obedience. This is a continuation of the above story. My beautiful princess, said Haj Muhammad to the sexy girl, if you are serious about your promise, I am willing to do the impossible for you. But when you get your boyfriend back, don't try to deceive me. You must come back here and keep your word, because if you don't come back to me, I will send my demons and they will hurt you. If you want to know what they will do to you, ask any person in this city what will happen to the girl who tries to deceive the mighty witch doctor Haj Muhammad Abubakar Mursal. Of course, I knew that before you told me. My girlfriend Hanan told me what would happen to me if I tried to deceive you. Excellent. We have a sex deal then, said the notorious womanizer. Now Ferris, tell me how you help him marry her. Then tell me how you will annul their marriage. If you open your heart to me, I will allow you to fulfill your wish not just once, but 10 times or more. The seductive words of the sexy princess caused Haj Muhammad's heart to beat rapidly and aroused him sexually until his cock stood inside his jalabiya like a cannon of Ramadan. So he opened his heart to reveal how he masterminded the two evil plots against the innocent sisters Intisar and Firdos. Then Farida took out her handkerchief and wiped her face. As she removed the handkerchief, she pressed the record button, leaving her handbag open. Haj Muhammad said, 2 months ago, a couple of women came to me and asked for my help. They wanted me to prevent their enemy Intisar from marrying the son of the richest man in town. When I understood what exactly they were talking about, the son of the wealthiest business tycoon, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, and his and, and his girlfriend from a Boer family, I told them that this particular marriage would not take place. They said that the boy Sami is madly in love with the girl in Chisar and therefore is unlikely to leave her. Who are the two women? Farida asked. They are the girl's relatives. How do her relatives treat her as their enemy? The woman is the fairest wife of the girl's father. Now I can understand the reason for the hostility. It is jealousy and hatred between the two rival wives of the polygamous husband. You are absolutely right, my love. Never marry a man who is likely to marry a woman other than you. I will never marry a selfish womanizer, no matter how handsome or rich he is. Please now resume your story. I had promised the two women that I would prevent the poor, beautiful girl Intisar from marrying the rich, handsome boy Sami. On the same day after they left my house, your boyfriend Hassan Mahjoub Al Hilali came to me about the same problem. He said that he is in love with Intisar, but she left him and fell in love with Sami, the son of Sayyid Usman al Tayyib. He mentioned that she abandoned him because the second boy is more handsome and richer than him. He said he was willing to pay any amount I asked if I help him marry Intisar. He claimed that he fell in love with her before the rich man's son met her and snatched her from him. I also gave him my word and he went away rejoicing. What did you do next? I drew a clever outline in my mind. I decided to make a lot of money out on it. I learned that the rich man, Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib, would not accept his son's friendship with a poor girl. I went and shared my heart with him. He told me to do anything to ruin you, to destroy his son's friendship, and that he would pay me for it. I called those two women again. I found out from them that Intisar has a half brother who is willing to do anything to ruin her life. He is a notorious criminal and heavy drunkard. He's a womanizer too. Then I went to that bad half brother and promised to pay him money if he accepted my plan. When I told him of my plan, he gladly accepted it. After that, I called Mr. Mahjoub Al Hilali and revealed to him what his son Hassan wanted me to do for him. He agreed that his son could marry the beautiful girl Intisar if possible without putting them in trouble with the law and her family. Then I went back to Sayyid Usman Al Tayyib and asked him to persuade his spiritual friend, the Mazum Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Imam of the largest mosque in town, to help us marry the poor girl Intisar with Hassan, the son of Sayyid Mahjoub Al Hilali. The rich man told me that Imam Sheikh Marzouk would do anything for him. Moreover, he told me that Maulana is interested in marrying his daughter Samia to his rich son Sami. After that, we all met in the rich man's business office and discussed the details of the plan. Then Mr. Osman Al Tayyib took me aside and told me that he has some doubts about Mr. Mahjoub Al Hilali and his son Hassan, that they might back down under pressure from his son Sami and the girl's family. He then proposed marriage to the girl's younger sister Firdos to secure the plan. So I took brother Umar and explained to him what Mr. Osman Al Tayyib told me. Omar, who functioned as a guardian to his two sisters, Intisar and Firdos, agreed to the second marriage but demanded a large sum of money. It was three times more than what he asked for from Mr. Mahjoub al Hilal and his son Hassan. Why did he ask for more money? Is it because Mr. Osman al Taib is richer than Mr. Mahjoub al Hilali? This is what I expected, but his argument is that there is an age difference of more than 40 years between his younger sister Firdos and Sayyid Mahjoub al Hilali, Sayyid Osman al Taib. He said that she is 15 years old and the old geezer who wanted to marry her is 70 years old. Most likely, Farida said, after that, the two marriages took place in the office of Mr. Osman at Taib on the same day. Not on the same day. We waited for Mr. Mahjoub al Hilali to persuade his secretary, Fattah Karrar, to testify as a witness for the two marriages. And when he did that, we met again in the office of Mr. Osman al Taib, and the two marriages were performed by the Imam of the Grand Mosque, the Mazum Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, who is recognized as a Mazun. Then the old man wanted to marry his son Thami to Sumaya, the daughter of Maulana, but the Imam told him, without the presence of his son and his signature as a groom, that the Sharia court would not accept the validity of the said marriage. Accordingly, he abandoned the said idea. How much money did you receive? Of course, I got the lion's share because I am the mastermind of the plan. I got 2 shares from the guardian Omar, 2 shares from Mr. Osman al Taib, and 1 share from Mahjoub al Hilala and his son Hassan. What did the two sisters do when they learned of the marriages? They caused great battles until the matter came to the Sharia court. But thank God, we won the first case, and soon we will file the second case before the judge of the Sharia court. What case did you win first? Was that my friend Hassan and Intisar? Not this, but the marriage of Mr. Osman al Taib and Firdos Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. Maulana Abdul Mohsen Taha had already issued a judgment of obedience, of a verdict of obedience against the disobedient wife Firdos. When does the groom Mr. Osman al Taib plan to take his disobedient bride Firdos to live with him in his obedience house? He wouldn't go to her house himself because her boyfriend Salah and her sisters Farida Intisar and his son Sami came to his office and threatened to kill him if he tried to touch her. So the cops will apply the verdict of obedience and bring to him at the house of obedience his rebellious Muslim wife. When do the cops come to get her? Most likely by this time they had already taken her to him. When Haj Muhammad revealed this, Farida's heart began to beat fast with fear and her eyes opened wide. The first thing that crossed her mind is to get out of the evil man's house and inform Sami and Salah. But a second thought prevented her from doing so. She concluded that Haj Muhammad may have made his own story because the recognized Sudanese lawyer Salah, who loves Firdos, assured them that the Sharia court must send 3 notices before they send the police. So she decided to wait and extract more information from the despicable sorcerer who masterminded the plots against her 2 innocent sisters. Where will the policemen take Firdos? On the honeymoon with her groom. Where does Mr. Osman Ateb plan to spend his honeymoon with his new wife Firdos? In Europe, but I don't know exactly which country. He said he's going soon on a business trip to Europe and is taking his new wife with him. When do you intend to present the case of Hassan and Intisar to Sharia court? We haven't decided on the exact date yet. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk suggested that we wait for the dust to settle. Now tell me how you will spoil Hassan and Intisar's marriage and divorce them. This is not my job. It is the work of the Doom and his demons. Before Farida's source came up with the words and asked whether the term Del Doom referred to a human being, a demon, or a Satan himself, the sorcerer called upon his faithful servant, the chief of his devils. The beautiful princess is not ready for the sudden manifestation of the scary Dracula, and when she suddenly saw him standing before her naked eyes, she cried out loud. She tried to get to her feet and ran away, but she could not. Even so, she crawled to her knees and tried to stand up, but again fell. As she crawled out, her short dress was rolled up to reveal her little red underwear. Hot guy Alan enjoys seeing her big yellow hips and large buttocks on full display. Now his erect cock is standing like a big stick inside a tent. He felt like he is standing on his feet, jumping over her exposed private parts and setting his large cock into her half-visible hairy pussy from behind, fucking her, or rather raping her on the red carpet. But somehow, the notorious womanizer managed to control his insatiable lust. Somehow, the terrified sexy girl managed to push her body all the way to the toilet, and there she got to her feet. She quickly opened the door, entered, and locking herself inside. It took Haj Muhammad 10 minutes to convince Farida that Daldum is not a demon, but a human being like her and him. She's sweating and shaking like a reed. She opened the toilet door, walked out. She asked Haj Muhammad to support her, or she might collapse and die in his house. The witch doctor approached her and then hugged her sexy body with lust, and he felt her breast like spears on his chest. He felt that half of his sexual desire for the beautiful princess had been fulfilled. The notorious womanizer wanted to enjoy her sexy body, but he realized that the beautiful princess is not ready to make love at that moment. When Farida saw the doom again, she closed her eyes and said, "Please, Haj Muhammad, tie him with strong ropes, or you can drive him out of your house." These words the demonic man took as a personal insult, and so he made an ugly fuss and strode forward towards his female culprit. When Farida opened her eyes and saw the doom within her reach, she began to utter inaudible words. Haj Muhammad feared that she would die in his hands, so he rebuked the demonic leader of his evil spirit. The back of darkness retracted, and his anger remained within. And Muhammad brought the frightened girl back to her old condition. "Don't be afraid of him," he then assured her that the scary Daldum is not harmful to his visitors, but devastating to their enemies. "I don't like to see his scary, ugly face. Would you tell him to disappear or get out of the room? I'm afraid that he will rape my body or possess my mind and heart like a demon." Daldum said angrily, "Would you please stop talking like that? He is more important than me in this business of black magic," the sorcerer said to the extremely terrified girl. "If he has to go, I can't help you alone." Farida gradually overcame her fear, yet she kept her eyes closed tightly. "Show our beautiful princess your love list." Daldum brought out his black book out of his pocket. When he saw the eyes of the princess still closed, He handed the book to Haj Muhammad. Or Princess, here is a list of 13 invisible numbers. You are required to choose one of them at random. Your choice should be between 1 to 13. What do the numbers mean? Each number represents a specific penalty for your enemy. In your case, your enemy is Intisar. She is not my enemy. She is my best friend. In this case, you can choose the number 11, which indicates the separation of lovers. Well, I choose number 11. When Farida made her, when Farida made her choice, she heard the master loudly repeating the number 11 and her sister's name. She opened her eye to see what happened. Fortunately, she found that the shadow of death, the doomed, had disappeared. Where did he go? He disappeared because his mission was over. Now you must bring us something familiar for Hassan or Intisar. What do you mean by familiar things? Any old handkerchief, shoes, dress, or underwear from Intisar or Hassan. Why do you ask for such things? For Abidi, the demons should get to know Hassan or Intisar. Where are your devils? That invisible evil spirit. You can't see them, but they can see you. I use them to destroy marriages, create enmity between people, separate friends and lovers, and bring madness, disease, and death to people, and make husbands divorce their wives against their wish. Why do you do such evil things to people? Beautiful princess, this is my work that I inherited from my ancestors, the wizards and witches. I use it to protect innocent people like you from unfair treatment by their enemies. Well, do whatever you want to do, but I want my boyfriend back. God's willing, he will come in less than a month and ask you to accept his return. If you do that to me, I will be your girlfriend and secret concubine too. We are lovers from today. You'll be my secret wife. I will buy you beautiful dresses and cover your sexy body from head to toe with gold and diamonds. First, you have to fulfill your promise to me before I allow you to do what you want with my body. I shall do that for sure. By the way, what is your name? My name is Siham Muhammad Ahmed. Your name as beautiful as your sexy body and beautiful eyes. Thank you, sir. Farida understood that she had extracted the whole truth about the mastermind behind the two bogus marriage contracts, and there is nothing else to learn from him. So she promised to come another day and bring the familiar things about Intisar and Hassan. Then she took her handbag and rushed out of the evil witch doctor's private room, and from his unholy abode crossed the crowded street and entered the restaurant. Then she informed Sami and Salah about that. She extracted the full details of the two evil conspiracies from the third witnesses. After that, she told them of what Haj Muhammad had said regarding the possibility of taking the so-called disobedient Muslim wife Firdaus today to the house of obedience. Immediately they got into a taxi and rushed home. When they got home, Intisar told them they were more than 2 hours late. While she was crying aloud, she told them that the police had already arrested her sister Firdaus. She said she was removed from the home as a criminal girl by 5 fully armed policemen. When Farida, Salah, and Sami learned that 5 armed policemen had arrested and taken Firdaus to her alleged husband, they dispersed in different directions looking for her. Unfortunately, none of them correctly guessed her whereabouts. By then, the legally arrested disobedient Muslim wife was 2 hours away from the city of Gadarif. Firdaus, who is tied by handcuffs, sits between two policemen. and two other policemen sit in front of her. Even the police van driver is also a law enforcement officer. All five police officers are well trained and policemen who are armed to the teeth. They did not put much effort into arresting the so called disobedient Muslim wife and taking her out of her house, except for a few slaps and kicks that they directed at her sister Intisar, who tried to resist them and obstruct justice. Her own mother Sakina wept and begged them not to take her daughter, but her tears and pleas fell on deaf ears. For some time, the policemen tried to talk to Firdos, but she did not respond, and then they ignored her and started talking to each other. While they were talking among themselves, her mind was thinking of Salah, Farida, Sami, and Intisar. The first question that popped into her troubled mind is what will they do when they learn of her kidnapping? Answering such a question increased her fear. She saw that they might run into those evil men's houses and kill them all. She also saw that Farida, Intisar, and Sami might blame her boyfriend Salah because he told them that the court must send 3 invitation letters before they send the policeman to take the rebellious wife to her husband's house of obedience. His friends believe his words because they believe that he was a recognized Sudanese lawyer who knew the law of his country. But what he expected did not happen, and this may lead to division among the friends. However, she told herself that if everyone doubted Salah, she would not question his words. She knows he genuinely loves her and will soon come to her rescue. She also remembered the words of her sister Farida: as long as I am alive, the evil old man Osman al-Taib will not touch my sister's Firdos. On that basis, she assured herself that friends will come to her rescue and expose the evil plots that have been planted against her and her sister Intisar by her criminal brother Omar and other evil conspirators. While her mind was thinking about those thoughts, she felt the police van suddenly came to a stop. She looked outside. She saw a soldier approaching them with a light rifle in his hands. Firdos understood that they have reached the town of Al-Fao. When the soldier reached them, one of the 5 policemen took out his identity card and told him, I am the police inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin from Al Gadarif police force. We are 5 policemen on a mission to Khartoum city. Who is that young woman in your car? The soldier asked. She is a rebellious wife who ran away from her legal husband. We have to deliver her to her husband who is staying at the Hilton International Hotel. Do you have official papers for your assignment? Yes, of course. We have an official order from the Sharia court. Then the police inspector Hussein took out the verdict of obedience order and handed it over to him. The soldier read the official order and was satisfied and said, please go on. When Firdos learns that they are going to take her to the Hilton International Hotel, to the evil old man, she starts to panic. Then she imagined herself locked in one room with him. She decided not to allow him to come within 10 paces of her. If he tries to approach her, she will spit on him, slap him, scratch his face, and kick him. And if all these blues don't bring him back to his senses, she will kill him. Suddenly, her mind switches to her arch enemy, Omar, her older brother. She told herself because of him, she stood before the court for the first time in her life, and she was arrested in her home. handcuffed like a criminal girl, and forcibly taken to a man who might rape her as his slave girl under the pretext of permissible Islamic marriage. Her train of thought was once again interrupted by the sudden stop of the police van. She understood from the police men that it was lunchtime. "What do you want to eat?" Inspector Hussein asked. The arrested uh, wife. Firdaus remained silent. Then four of them left the carriage and walked towards the food shacks on the highway. They left her with the driver. Half an hour later, they came back and brought two sandwiches, one for her and the other for the driver. Inspector Hussein put the sandwich in front of her and asked her to eat. Then he removed his keys, opened the handcuffs. Firdaus remained like a statue. "I think the beautiful bride is on hunger strike," said one of the policemen sarcastically. Then he took the sandwich and placed it on her closed lips. The alleged disobedient wife spat food on the policeman's face. In response to her daring act, the policeman slapped her with full force until she turned upside down. She fell backwards until her black underwear and thighs were fully revealed. Then the angry policeman quickly stood up and lifted his leg and was about to kick her in her face with his boot, but Inspector Hussein intercepted him and caught him and said, "Please stop, Police Officer Mahmoud. Do you want us to take her to the old man without her teeth? Lucky for her, I would have made her kiss my feet without her clothes on her body if I were on my own with her. Then I would rape her and strip her virginity in broad daylight before the old man could shove his dick inside her pussy." After that, Inspector Hussein took the hands of the girl who had been beaten and lifted her from between the two car seats. Then he tied handcuffs to her hands. A few drops of blood could be seen on her extremely frightened face. Her right cheek was also swollen due to the strong slap. When the police van started moving again, the innocent kidnapped girl's mind became very confused. She saw that the policeman would force her to hand over her body to the emboldened old man to abuse her and rape her. She imagined herself being chained by the five policemen until the old man raped her. She started weeping and shedding her hot tears. Silently, she asked herself, how would she live if such evil happened to her? Therefore, she decides to jump out of the hotel and kill herself if the old man rapes her and disgrades her holy body. She would rather kill herself than let the evil old man steal her virginity. Her mind turned back to her beloved Salah. Will he come and save her before the old man defiles her body? He thought her thoughts were interrupted again when she heard Inspector Hussein talking to her. "Oh, young lady, first of all, let me apologize to you for what happened between you and Sergeant Mahmoud Hamdan. Secondly, I want you to know that we are not happy that you have been arrested at your residence by us. We are also not happy that the police men take you by force to your legal husband. We hope that the groom will treat you with respect and that you will be taken to him as a bride of your own free will for your honeymoon. It seems that your rebellion against your lawful husband promoted the judge of the Sharia court to issue a judgment of the verdict of disobedience against you. Because of your misconduct, you are now taken by the police as a disobedient Muslim wife to the house of obedience to your lawful Muslim husband, Mr. Osman Al Tayyib. We are just doing our duty as policemen. Once we hand you over as a runaway bride to your groom, our turn is over. Now we are about 20 minutes from the hotel. I'm going to handcuff you because I don't think you would like us to take you inside the hotel in handcuffs. Although we have the right to do so, as long as we do our duty, we don't care what people say or do. Wherefore, my wise advice to you is to be a submissive wife and a good bride and follow us without resistance into the hotel. If you resist, we will drag you inside, and if need be, we will tie you up again and beat you too. After this mixture of instructions and threats, Inspector Hussein opened the handcuffs of the imprisoned bride. Firdaus remained where she was, as if she had not been spoken to. At 4:15 p.m., the police van finally stopped in front of the Hilton International Hotel. A hotel guard saw two policemen jump out of the police car. They are in their khaki uniforms. The guard immediately got to his feet and approached the car. He was surprised to see that the two policemen proceeded to forcibly drag a beautiful young girl out of their big car, while the other two police officers pushed her buttocks from behind. He was concluded that the policemen had mistaken the famous Hilton International Hotel for the notorious Cobra Central Jail. The guard shouted angrily, "This is a hotel and not a jail." Inspector Hussein shouted at the guard, "We know this city better than you do. We know this is the Hilton International Hotel. But I have been working in this five-star hotel for 5 years, and I have never witnessed a female guest being brought inside the hotel in such inhuman way. Listen, Joker, you idiot," Inspector Hussein said angrily. "We don't have time to waste with you. This is a runaway wife, and we have an official order, a verdict of obedience issued by the judge of the Sharia court in Gadarif city. We have to hand her over to her husband who is staying here and wants to fuck her day and night during their honeymoon. Therefore, if you ask me any more questions or try to hinder us, I will beat you with my hands and order my foremen to trample you under their feet and then arrest you and charge you with obstruction of justice. We don't mind killing you either if you try to resist arrest or escape from us. But sir," the security guard said in a low voice that he is now speaking softly, "this is the main lobby, and therefore many foreigners and diplomats are sitting inside. If they were to see you drag this young lady inside the hotel into her husband, it would be a bad testimony to the International Hilton Hotel as well as to our country, Sudan. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to break the law in order to protect your hotel's reputation?" "I didn't say that, sir. It would be nice to use the back entrance instead of the main door. In this case, show us where the back entrance is," the frightened security guard said to the police van driver. "Please take a full turn and then take the lane on your right and keep driving until you enter a narrow road. When you see 3 green trash containers. Stop there, and I will meet you over there. After accepting this good advice without further argument, the driver followed the instructions and drove to the back of the beautiful five-star hotel. The Hilton International Hotel is located near the bank of the Nile River. It is the most beautiful place in the entire capital city of Sudan. Only wealthy people, foreign diplomats, wealthy Arab visitors, air crews, and other wealthy citizens could afford to stay in this high-class hotel. The Hilton International Hotel has 25 floors and many beautiful spacious rooms. As soon as Police Inspector Hassan Hassanin came out, he saw the guard open the back gate. Then the police van entered the hotel. After that, the guard shows the police inspector the freight elevator, which is all used by the kitchen staff and housekeeping girls. The 4 policemen pulled Firdos out of their big car again. They tried to take her to the freight elevator, but she resisted and started screaming. Inspector Hussein put his big hand, the size of a cricket bat, to her little mouth and closed it. He then ordered the other policemen to lift her legs and carry her into the freight elevator. 2 held her hands and shoulders, while the other 2 lifted her legs. Inspector Hussein continued to close her mouth. In this inhumane way, the 5 policemen of the Islamic Sharia court took the so-called disobedient Muslim wife and runaway bride to her alleged legal husband. When they entered the elevator, they left her body. Firdos fell hard on her face. She hit her forehead and broke her nose bone. Her nose started to bleed profusely. Despite this, none of them bothered to help the injured girl get back to her feet. They surrounded her like wild beasts, gathered around injured prey, while the underage girl Firdos remained lying on her stomach and crying. When the freight elevator reached the 13th floor, it stopped. Then the policemen carried her again in the same way from the elevator. When they got to room number 1313, they knocked on the door. The door immediately opened from the inside. The 5 policemen threw the wounded body of the so-called disobedient wife into the room and left. They are now convinced that they applied the verdict of obedience and succeeded in transferring the rebellious wife to the house of obedience to her lawful husband. After that, the door was securely closed, and inside the room is the kidnapped minor girl Firdos Ibrahim Mustafa Jaber. Chapter 17: Rape of the disobedient Muslim wife by her aged Muslim husband. Immediately, Firdos got to her feet and looked around. Her frightened eyes spotted the old man standing like a devil by the window. The first thing that popped into her disturbed mind was to kill him on the spot before he dared to touch her body. The old man, with a big smile on his face, started walking slowly toward his so-called disobedient bride. Firdos remained standing in her place, looking at him with eyes full of anger and fear. When he approached her, he removed a small box from his coat and opened it. Inside it there are beautiful necklace for her neck, bracelets for her hands, earring for her ears, and gold watch. All of them are made out of pure gold. He put the box and jewelry on the table, but kept the necklace in his hands. Here are your wedding gifts, said the old man. If you prove to me that you are an obedient and submissive Muslim wife, I'll buy you more of these costly trinkets. I also bought you expensive dresses and shoes. Whatever you want, I will buy it for you. I will keep you in a beautiful house in Khartoum city. I will come once a month to your house. Of all my four wives, I will love you the most. Whenever I want to go abroad for my work, I will take you with me. I'll let you see the whole world. The only thing I ask of you is to be an obedient Muslim wife. You know that I am a very rich man, and therefore I will adorn you in gold from head to toe. When the old man finished his words, he approached the underage girl and put the necklace around her neck. As soon as he was within her reach, her hands grabbed his throat. He struggled to free his throat, but to no avail. The new bride continued to tighten her grip on his neck. He started kicking and hitting her body, but she wouldn't let go of his throat. The struggle continued until both of them fell. The old man fell to the ground and Firdaus above him. His struggle stopped and his eyes opened wide. She may have needed a few seconds to turn the old god into a dead corpse under her body, but suddenly a heavy blow fell on her head. It is so powerful that it rendered her unconscious. When her hands released his neck, the old man pushed her unconscious body and rose to his feet. The old wolf felt as if he had been freed from the hand of an angry lioness. Then the old man said in a gasping voice, "Thank you, Harun. Sir, I want you. But you did not listen to my advice," said a large man who had just hit Firdaus on the head with a big stick. "He would have killed you if I didn't get out quickly. All women are the same in their behaviors and evils. They are not fit for anything but fucking them on the bed and having kids. At least I followed your good advice and kept you under the bed. What to do now, sir? Go and call my private nurse, the Kia Karamallah." Then the big man left the room and returned a few minutes later, followed by a pretty young girl. She is not in uniform, but in her right hand, she holds her medical equipment. As soon as she saw the unconscious girl, she went to her. Mr. Osmatep said, "Wait a minute. Before you treat her, you must first undress her." Without asking any questions, the nurse followed the instructions and stripped the bride of all her clothes. She made her completely naked, as if she prepared her for a major surgery. After that, the evil old man whispered a few words into the servant's ear. In response, Harun took Firdaus' clothes, hid them in a closet, and pulled out a long rope. Then he took her hands and put them behind her back and tied them together. After that, he carried her unconscious, naked body and placed it on a large bed. He also tied her legs to the bed. He did so, crept under the bed, and hid as before. Then the old man said angrily, "Now, Miss Zakia, revive her unconscious body." It took the nurse a few minutes to revive the unconscious body of the naked bride. When Firdaus opened her eyes, she saw the nurse smiling at her, but she did not smile. Her head is still heavy and it hurts badly because of the heavy blow. Then she saw the old man standing behind the nurse with a very angry face. Anger filled her heart again when she realized that he was still alive. She remembered that she had killed him or was about to kill him. "Thank you, Miss Zakia," said the grumpy old man. "You can go now." Then the corrupt nurse took her medicine box and immediately left the room, leaving behind the so-called newly married couple. The old man looked at the naked body of his alleged bride with eyes full of lust. His alleged first wife looked at him with eyes full of anger and bitterness. The innocent girl began to see that the vile old man began to take off his clothes piece by piece until he was completely naked. She felt disgusted to see such an ugly scene, appeared to her as a scary ghost in a horror movie. After undressing the evil, after undressing, the evil old man came and sat near her on the bed. She tried to get up and grab his throat again and choke him to death, but she couldn't. She discovered that her hands were behind her back. She struggled to bring them to the front, but she couldn't. She realized they were linked together. Then she tried to use her legs to kick him in his dead face, but she couldn't do that either. She understood that he had also tied her legs. She started shaking her body violently to free her hands and legs. Unfortunately, all her efforts are in vain. After so much effort, Firdaus became exhausted. Her body was full of sweat and bruises. She's getting a terrible headache. She fell on her back, her heart beating like a drum. Her mind was filled with fear and dread. She knows that now she can do nothing to stop him from raping her. She didn't expect the evil old man to tie her up like an animal and then rape her. Yet her eyes are looking everywhere for sanctuary. Meanwhile, the naked old man kept sitting on the bed and looking at her. She tried again to free herself but could not. The old man waited until her strength of resistance was gone. Then he reached out and placed his hand on one of her bare breasts. Firdaus felt as if the talons of an eagle had grabbed her breast. When he pressed on her breast, it felt as if he was squeezing blood out of it. It gave her an extremely hideous sensation that turned it into excruciating pain. Then she closed her eyes to prevent her gaze from seeing the ugly side of the naked old man, who looked like a naked old beast. The fear and panic that filled her heart could not be described in human language. After that, she felt his other hand grab her other breast, which made her feel unbearable pain. She opened her eyes again. Her breast shrank and became less in size. Then she saw his face approaching hers to kiss her. She felt as if a snake wanted to bite her. She began to swing her head sideways to prevent him from stinging her lips with his poisons. Yet he began kissing her neck, shoulders, and breasts. Firdaus felt as if a mad dog was sucking, licking, and biting her body. Then she began to feel the weight of his skeleton mounting on her body. When he was sure she could no longer resist, he grabbed her head and pressed it against the pillow. She became motionless. Firdaus despised herself. She hated not being able to defend her honor. She wishes that the roof would fall on her and kill her before he could rape her body, and take away her virginity and defile her purity. When he realized that she could no longer swing her head, the old man lustfully looked at her lips. Then he brought his mouth close to hers. He first kissed her cheek and then her forehead. After that, he quickly moved his lips to her lips. He started sucking and licking her bowels, his body now burning with uncontrollable lust. Although as soon as the old man's lips touched her lips, her mouth. Firdaus began to bite him. It was such a strong bite that the old man felt as if her teeth were sharp nails that had sunk an inch deep into his thin lips. She continued to bite them because she knew and understood that this was her last weapon of defense against her abuser and rapist. The old man struggled to free his lips but could not. He scratched her cheeks with his fingernails, which like the claws of an eagle, and pulled her hair with his hands. Despite all his efforts, she does not leave his lips. Every effort on his part only added to his pain. He is afraid she may bite him to death, so he starts kicking with his legs. The kicking pushed Harun out from his hiding place. When he looked at the bed, he saw the old man in a state of complete defeat. So the wicked man raised his hand and struck Firdaus on the head with his big stick. She burst out again. Although the old man's lips were freed, he could not move. The servant lifted him from the bed and stretched his body in the floor on the floor. The evil old man was now like a dead corpse, destined for burial. After that, the vile servant came out of the room and summoned the corrupt nurse, the Kia. When the nurse came, she was shocked to see the old man lying half dead on the ground with his lips bleeding profusely. She also saw the new bride lying on the bed with her mouth covered in blood. She saw that Harun killed the girl in revenge for her attempt to kill the old man. Did you kill her? The nurse asked. She is not dead yet, but she was going to kill her husband if I didn't save him in time. I think she's a crazy wife. Ignoring the servant words, the nurse knelt on the old man's body and began to treat his bleeding lips. Meanwhile, the wicked man trembled and groaned, and his vile mouth gnashed his teeth. The pain increased when the nurse touched his injured lips. Then she put a big bandage over his lips. The old man looks awful now with that kind of mouth. He appears to be wearing a Halloween zombie mask. Afterwards, Harun spread a large white bedsheet over his master's naked body, making it look like a dead body prepared for its funeral. Although she is an outlaw nurse, the Kia takes pity on the innocent bride when she sees her lying on the bed, burst out. She took another bedsheet and covered her naked body. After that, she treated her very carefully. She wishes that the evil old man and his despicable servant would never hit the innocent underage bride again. When Firdaus regained consciousness, she deliberately gave her some sleeping pills. She tells the old man and his servant that the bride is not well, and therefore it is not advisable to try to have sex with her anymore that day. The two evil men believed the nurse and allowed the fourth wife to sleep all night. When she woke up, Firdaus thought she had a long nightmare, but she soon remembered her struggle with the old geezer. When she looked around the room, she realized it was not a nightmare, but real horror. She remembered that the evil old man made a second attempt to rape her, but she bit his lips. She also remembered it was a very painful bite for him, that he most likely died or became very ill. In either case, he must have been taken to hospital or buried in a grave. Firdaus wished in her heart that the second possibility had happened. After that, She, the underage bride, felt very hungry and thirsty. She had not eaten any food or drank any water since the police abducted her from her home in her city Al Gadarif and brought her to Khartoum city to her so-called lawful Muslim husband. So she couldn't resist or scream when the old man tried to twice to rape her because of her thirsty mouth and empty stomach. Firdos thought she was still naked and tied to the bed, so she decided to set herself free and run away before the old man returns and rapes her. She preferred either to wander aimlessly through the streets of the capital city as a homeless girl or to become a prostitute in a brothel and tavern house in Khartoum city. She knows if she returned to her city Al Gadarif and family, the police will arrest her again and bring her to the evil old man who claimed to be her lawful husband. They will put handcuffs on her hands, tie her legs, and drag her like a notorious criminal to the old man. Firdos then violently pulled her right leg. She's surprised when her leg moves freely. She tried her other leg and hands and discovered that she is no longer chained to the bed. She sat on the bed and looked at her body. She discovered that she was well dressed and had a pair of new shoes strapped to her feet. She got to her feet and headed towards the mirror. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she saw a beautiful dress on her. Her neck is adorned with the same golden necklace, her ears with earrings, and her hands with bracelets. Her hair is well combed. She looked like a beautiful bride prepared for her handsome groom. She knows that all those precious pieces of jewelry, beautiful dress, and shoes belong to the evil old man. She quickly removed them from her body and threw them all on the ground. She became naked and barefooted. Then the kidnapped innocent girl started looking for her old dress and shoes. She searched the whole room but couldn't find them. She put on the new dress and her shoes again and went to the door and tried to open it. She found it tightly closed from the outside. She knocked on it, but no one answered her. She understood that the old man who claimed to be her husband had locked her up as his rebellious wife. She feels very weak and tired. Her thoughts turned to her hunger and thirst. She felt that she had to eat and drink something before the old man comes back. She knows that she needs her strength to fight him in case he tries to rape her again. Firdos has been waiting for a very long time for someone to come and set her free, but no one came to save her from her kidnapper and rapist. She understood that the evil old man imprisoned her in a haunted castle in the middle of a forest. Finally, she begins to think that the old man is starving her on purpose in order to diminish her strength. She knows that he is afraid that she will kill him if he tries to rape her a third time. The imprisoned bride returned to the bed and sat on it. She spent many hours sitting alone. One night came, she became very weak and exhausted. Her exhaustion weakened her and she fell asleep on the bed. When she woke up again, it was the next morning. She tried to sit down, but she couldn't. Despite her sleepiness, she resisted it and stayed awake. Now she is starving to death. Her body is shivering with fever. She knows she is very ill. She tried again to get up, but could not. She wanted to scream for help, but her voice let her down. When she looked around the room, she couldn't see things clearly. She's breathing hard and her body is sweating terribly. She sensed it like sinking into a deep sea of dark water. She concluded that she's going to die. This feeling caused her to panic, and thus she gathered her remaining strength and rose to her feet. Her heart is beating fast and her head is aching badly. Then Firdaus started to see everything around her move quickly. She lost control and fell to the ground. She seriously injured herself due to the fall. She is bleeding copiously from her mouth and nose. She's afraid she will bleed to death. Yet she gathered her strength again and crawled on her knees toward the bed. When she reached the bed, she pushed her body up with great difficulty. Half of her body is now on the bed and the other half is on the floor. In this miserable situation, the innocent underage girl Firdaus stayed for a long time. She is no longer aware of herself. The third night came, and when but she missed it due to her dying condition. On the morning of the fourth day, while the innocent girl is lying on the bed half alive, half dead, the evil old man returned to his prey. He, like the African hyena, which hid its prey in a cave, and when its corpse decomposed, it returned to devour its flesh. He is also like the great desert vulture that spots a dead animal carcass and descends to eat it. His lips are still in bandage, yet he looks fresh and powerful. The old man, Mr. Osman al-Taib, came back alone. He sat near the lifeless body of the innocent small girl Firdaus. He put his hand on her body and began to feel her lustfully. His animalistic lust blinded him from seeing the dying condition of the underage girl. He slowly rotated her body until it was completely rotated. Then he began to touch her with lust. Then he began to touch with lust her breast, cheeks, lips, thighs, hips, buttocks, and legs. When he made sure that she's unaware of the rough touches of his hands, he began to undress her. After that, he removed the wool's clothes and mounted her dying body. He is the type of a hypocrite who built a big mosque, a high school for girls, a ward in a hospital for women, and a charity home for the homeless and orphans in his city. He is also the type who surreptitiously tries to show to others that he is nice, personable, and friendly, but he is not. He is the devil incarnate. Because of the touching and rubbing of her body, the innocent girl regained some of her consciousness. Although she opened her eyes and saw the black silhouette of the evil beast, she could not move a limb on her weak body. She could feel his bony body as if it was a crocodile or a snake moving over her naked body. His bones pierce her flesh like sharp nails. She's feeling them like the long thorns of hedgehog creeping on her body and piercing her all over her naked flesh. Then she saw his toothless mouth, which smelled strongly of snuff and tobacco, approaching her face like a venomous serpent. He again started sucking and licking her lips like a mad dog. He just uses his tongue like a cobra. He couldn't use his thin lips because they were still wrapped by bandage. This licking of his tongue gave her an ugly feeling that made her vomit. The sinister old man ignored her mouth and began to force himself inside her. While she was still vomiting, Firdaus fell all rusty and forcefully metal trying to force itself into her genitals. This also caused her unbearable pain. Now she feels as if the old man is cutting her body in half. Because of the circumcision or a female genital mutilation of her vagina when she was a 5-year-old girl, the old man could not easily rape her. Despite that, with great effort, he inserted his big, huge, unlight penis inside her little virgin pussy and began to rob her of her virginity and discredit her holy body. While the 70-year-old man, Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, was raping the half-dead body of the 15-year-old minor girl, Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, her tears were falling from her eyes and cheeks on her face like hot acid. Sadly, whatever the old man did to the underage so-called Muslim halal bride during those 3 dark nights and 4 terrifying days, and what he is doing now is legitimate in Islam because it is authorized in Sharia law. Her marriage to the old man was contracted by the Imam of the largest mosque in her city with the authorization and signature of her criminal brother Omar and recognized by the judge of the Sharia court. Since that time, the old man has become her lawful Muslim husband, and she is now his disobedient Muslim wife who needs discipline and taming. The Islamic law allows him to beat and rape her repeatedly until the demons leave her stubborn head and become his obedient and submissive Muslim wife. Marriage in Islam was defined by the greatest Islamic scholar Abu Hamid al-Ghazali as the relationship between the bastard husband and a slave wife. A father or a brother can give his daughter or a sister in marriage of at any age to any man he likes without her permission. This is because the Prophet Muhammad married his third wife Aisha when she was 6 years old, child bride, and had sex with her, or rather rape her, when she was 9 years old child. At such a young age, we cannot expect Aisha to decide who she marries and at what age she marries. It was her father, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, who sold her in marriage to his friend, the alleged prophet of God, Muhammad, when she was a child of 6. Therefore, no Muslim religious leader, regardless of his status, or an ordinary Muslim man or a Muslim woman, can object to a father or a brother selling his minor daughter or a sister in marriage to an old man, regardless of his advanced age or how young she is. One Firdaus objected to her marriage to the old man and condemned the Prophet's marriage to the child bride Aisha. The judges of the Sharia court insulted her and cursed her, and one of them wanted to kill her inside the courtroom as an infidel, an apostate Muslim girl. They consider her to have blasphemed against the alleged infallible prophet of God, whom they consider the master of creation, who came to perfect morals and was sent by God as a mercy to humanity. Chapter 18: The only witness to the kidnapping, and rape crime. The question raging in the city of Al-Gadarif after the kidnapping and rape of the innocent girl is what people believe in the heinous crime. In her statement, the innocent girl mentioned that she was kidnapped by 5 bad guys and raped by 6 criminals. However, Inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin claimed that the girl was kidnapped by 4 men and raped by 5. 4 of these villains have been captured by him and his brave men, but their brutal leader has yet to be captured. The rumors, the names of these four appear in the local newspapers, as they are Mamun Yassin, Omar Al Farouk, Mansour Taha, and Nasruddin Hassan. However, the innocent girl insisted that she was kidnapped by five bad men and raped by six criminals. She, ha- she had given the names of the four aforementioned criminals and the leader of their gang, whose name Al-Wahsh Al-Lajabu, and added to them the name of the magician. Inspector Hussein said the magician was just a figment of the imagination of the girl's troubled mind. How can she imagine a name and a person? This is the public argument against Inspector Hussein. The journalists went so far as to ask the inspector to grant them permission to interview the four arrested criminals. The police inspector vehemently refused their request. He then opened the door to the hotly debated question of whom the public should believe. The kidnapped girl made a quick recovery in the hospital. On the seventh day after her rescue, the doctor allowed the police authority to take her statement and the journalist to interview her. Her sad story is on everyone's lips, and the public demanded that these villains be executed as soon as possible. Their brutal leader must be caught and sentenced to death as well. Moreover, they urged the police department to seriously inquire about the mysterious magician. Therefore, the journalists, after interviewing the innocent girl, pressed Inspector Hussein hard to allow them to interview the criminals. But Inspector Hussein again refused their request. So journalists crowded in front of his office every day. In the midst of this urgency and public demands, Inspector Hussein to his office 2 days ago. Reporters were told that he had gone to the capital city to do an urgent mission. They tried to find out the nature of this urgent mission, but they couldn't figure it out. However, guessed that he might have gone in search of the gang leader. When the inspector returned to his office, he found a long line of journalists waiting to meet him. A few people came to make new complaints to the famous police inspector. Among them are Farida, Sami, Salah, Intisar, and Walid Hamza. In fact, Walid is the first to get there, and then he is at the head of the waiting list. The other four friends arrived late and therefore stand at the end of the long queue. As the friends waited for their turn, Salah suddenly turned their attention to Walid Hamza. They were surprised to see him there. They waved their hands to him and he smiled at them. Salah is about to go and talk to him, but he stops when he sees that he has been called. Inspector Hussein was very upset when he saw the journalists line up in front of his office. He expected Walid to be the first journalist. On this basis, he does not invite him to take a seat. Instead, angrily, say, "What is your name and what do you want to know?" "My name is Walid Hamza. What do you want to know?" "I don't want to know anything, sir. I have some important information to report." "Are you one of these journalists?" "I'm not a journalist, sir." "What is your profession?" When Walid does not answer his question, Inspector Hussein impatiently asks, "Are you a social worker?" "I'm not, sir. Actually, I don't have a job at the moment." "Then why did you come here? Did you come to file a complaint?" "I don't have any complaints." Inspector Hussein shouted angrily. "Why the hell did you come here? Did you come to me to find work for you? I have come to reveal to the police some important information regarding a recent kidnapping and rape case of an innocent girl. What information do you know? It is about the six criminals who kidnapped and raped the innocent girl. Inspector Hussein said angrily that there were five, not six. No, sir, there are six criminals in number. Do you want to tell me that you know my job better than I do? Or are you one of those useless journalists who have no other work to do but meddle with police work? I'm not a journalist, sir. I have some important information about the crime. Listen, Walid Hamza, if you have anything else to tell me now, tell it. I don't have time to waste on idle talk. I have come to reveal some information about the mysterious criminal. Do you mean the magician? Yes, sir. Can you get out? How can you treat me like that, sir? Are you going out or do you want me to arrest you? I'm not a fraud, sir. I'm a good citizen. I give you the last warning. If you don't go out, I will ring the bell and you'll be in serious trouble. Sir, I have come to guide you to the lair of the mysterious criminal who is called the magician. Let me ask you one very important question, Inspector Hussein said angrily. Were you there when they raped her? Yes, I was there with them, sir. The unexpected response from Walid Hamda made Inspector Hussein jump to his feet as if he has discovered a poisonous cobra under his chair. Are you a criminal? Asked the police inspector with confused mind. I'm not a criminal. I'm a good citizen. How did you escape? Sir, I'm the good citizen who directed you to the crime scene. This last piece of information felt like a sledgehammer into the head of the agitated inspector. It felt as if a zombie had emerged from the grave and was about to attack him. Even though he has a gun strapped to his waist, he knows he cannot kill a ghost with a bullet. So he quickly got up from his chair and started to move up and down like a restless demon. He became very anxious and afraid. Then he suddenly stopped and turned his frightened face to the good citizen and asked, have you shared your information with anyone else? No, sir. Very good. Can you go and wait outside until I call you back? Surely I can do that, sir. Then Walid Hamza got to his feet and started walking toward the door. Wait a minute, the inspector shouted. Listen, young man, this information is supposed to be kept top secret for the time being. Don't share it with anyone else, especially the journalist standing in front of my office. Okay, sir. After that, the good citizen walked out of the office and entered the waiting room. He walked straight to the four friends. Why did you come here? Salah asked. I have important business with Police Inspector Hussein. Have you come to file a complaint against someone? Sami asked. I'm sorry, Sami. I'm not supposed to share my important work with anyone. I have been strictly instructed by Inspector Hussein to keep it strictly confidential. Well, Salah said, we are sorry if we interfered in some personal matters. Why did you guys come here? Walid inquired. You must have come to file a complaint against Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib. Farida spoke not only against him, but against all his gang members. We have gathered enough information to send him and his evil men behind bars for the rest of their lives. Before Walid could ask any more questions, he heard that his name had been announced and he was asked to come. He immediately stood up and went to the office again. Inspector Hussein said, please sit Mr. Walid Hamza. The inspector still looked tense and frightened. Thank you, sir. Did you share your information with anyone in the waiting room? Not at all, sir. Very good. Now, Mr. Walid Hamza, you said that you are the good citizen who directed me to the crime scene. Yes, I am, sir. Do you have any evidence? In other words, can you prove to me that you are the same good citizen? How do you want me to prove it? Just prove to me that you are a good citizen. Sir, why don't you trust my words? How can I trust your words just like that? I need some kind of proof. I spoke to my boss and he told me not to accept his information unless he showed you some evidence. I can show you where the sixth criminal the magician is hiding. This will not be evidence. Perhaps you have enmity with someone and want to destroy his life. What do you mean, sir? Listen, Walid Hamza, I'm a policeman and I know my job. When I ask you a question, give me a clear answer. I can give you a full descriptions of the crime and the sixth criminal. All of these descriptions are mentioned in the newspapers every day. You can do one thing, sir. You can catch the criminal magician and extract the truth from him. Again, you are telling me what to do. I can't arrest someone without enough evidence. The hiding sixth criminal will confess his crime when you catch him, sir. I think you are a fraud. What do you mean, sir? I'm telling you for the last time, don't talk to me with your foolish formulation. But, sir, you accuse me of being a liar. I don't accuse you. I need evidence, or I cannot arrest anyone based on your words. Sir, I have no enmity with Umar. I had only seen him before in the brothel and tavern house where the hideous crime against the innocent girl was committed, and I saw him again recently in the Sharia court. Wait a minute, who is Umar? Shouted Inspector Hussein. The sixth criminal who managed somehow to escape your arrest. When I hear your story at first, I thought you were a fraud, but now I know you are a crazy man too. May God forgive you, sir, for wrongly accusing me. Even the innocent girl was kidnapped and gang raped. Said his name is Magician. Now you tell me his name is Omar. I think Magician is just his nickname. I learned that his real name is Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. The angry police officer shouted, "Get out of here!" Said, "You can't send me like that." Well, I guess I should send someone like you either to a mental hospital or to the dungeon forever. When Inspector Hussein said these words, he picked up his phone. Well, sir, I'm going out. Please don't arrest me. I promise I won't be back again. Then get the hell out of my office. If I see you again, I will definitely throw you behind bars. As a result, the good citizen turned his back, and hurried out of the angry police officer's office. When friends saw Walid Hamza's sad face, they thought he had some trouble with the police. And as soon as he approached them, Salah asked him, "What is the problem?" "I think he is either a corrupt policeman or a madman," said Walid Hamza angrily. "What happened between you and him?" Sami asked. "Even if he escapes from human law, he cannot escape from God." "Who is he?" Intisar asked. The sixth criminal." "Who is the sixth criminal? And what crime are you talking about?" Farida asked. "I'm talking about a recent kidnapping and rape committed against an innocent girl in this city." Salah said, "You mean to say that you know the hideout of the beast, the ringleader of the gang? Not the monster, the leader, but the sixth criminal who escaped was his ringleader. But who is the sixth criminal? Salah asked again. Before I tell you who is he, let me first apologize to you guys. Why do you need to apologize to us? Intisar asked. Only in the Sharia court did I learn that Firdos had a brother named Umar. Unfortunately, he's not a good person. He's a notorious criminal. Farida says, you don't need to feel sorry. We all know that. I was shocked to see him in the Sharia court, not only because I knew he was your brother, but because he is one of the criminals who kidnapped and raped the innocent girl. The shocking news felt like heavy. The shocking news fell heavy like the roof of the office on the heads of the friends. As a result, they all became motionless like statues, their eyes opened wide and their minds stunned. Their absolute silence lasted for a long time. Salah is the one who overcame the shock first. How do you know that? Salah asked with great surprise. I'm an eyewitness. Do you mean to say that you are the good citizen who reported the abominable crime to the police? Salah inquires. Yes, I am. But how did you happen to be in the brothel and tavern house where the hideous crime was committed? Sami asked surprisingly. Then the good citizen Walid Hamza narrated to his 5 friends his adventure from the time he entered. Then the good citizen Walid Hamza narrated to his 4 friends his adventure from the time he entered the house of alcohol and prostitution until he made an anonymous phone call to the police inspector in charge that day. After that, he told them what had just happened between him and Inspector Hussein. The despicable slave trader has finally fallen into a trap. The evils he committed against his 2 half-sisters, Intisar and Firdos, have come back to haunt him, says Farida with determination and fury. But how did he escape arrest? Intisar asked. I think he ran off with his ringleader, who is known as Al-Wish. Until I left the house, they were all there. Salah says thoughtfully, I don't think you are right. Do you mean to say that he was there until the police raided the brothel and bar, and then he fled with his ringleader? Walid asks. This possibility may not be true either, because he either escaped before the police raided the brothel and tavern or after he was arrested. I reject the first possibility because Umar's physical condition that we saw in the Sharia court revealed that he was beaten by the police interrogators and not by the unknown kidnappers, as he falsely claimed in the Sharia court to the judge. I also think that this is the only explanation for his miserable condition in court, says Intisar. But how did he manage to escape from the police? Farida asks. I don't think that with his complete physical disability, he could have escaped from the police, as Salah says. Then how did he get out of prison? Walid asked. Here, Walid Hamza, says Salah seriously. When you told us that, Inspector Hussein's face changed and he became afraid. I saw there was something fishy about Omar's case. Most likely he knew that you were telling the truth about the 6th criminal, but he didn't want such a fact to leak out and that is why he told you to keep it in the strictest confidence. When he spoke to you again, he turned the tables on you and started accusing you of being either a charlatan or a madman. Accordingly, he scared you by threatening to send you behind bars or to a mental hospital. But why you should conceal the truth of Umar? Farida asks. I think Inspector Hussein was bribed by someone, and because of that, he agreed to release Umar and cross his name off the list of the 6 criminals, said Salah. Who bribed him? Sami asked. First of all, Umar himself could not be a big bribe for his freedom, as he is not a rich person. The second possibility is the ringleader of his brutal gang. But why should he only care about Umar and not the other 4 criminals? The third possibility is Mr. Osman al Tayyib. Most likely, the evil old man knew that Umar was involved in the crime. As for him, if Umar, who played the role of the guardian of his marriage to Firdaus, did not appear before the judge of the Sharia court, Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, his complaint would be rejected or postponed. For this reason, he bribed Inspector Hussein and released his alleged son-in-law Umar. How can you prove it? Intisar asked. We can prove this through the good citizen, and this person is you, Walid Hamza, says Salah. I, Walid says in great amazement. I couldn't prove the crime I witnessed. So how do you expect me to prove something I didn't see? Weren't you an eyewitness to the recent kidnapping and rape crime? Yes, I was. Did you not see Omar among the 6 criminals? Yes, I saw him. So, you can force him to confess his involvement in the heinous crime of kidnapping and raping an innocent girl. Oh my God, Walid Hamza exclaimed in amazement. How do you expect me to force a notorious and dangerous criminal like the magician Omar to confess his involvement in the crime? Only the police can do that. But you know that the police inspector in charge of the crime is not ready to do that. Yes, you are right. Therefore, you are the only one who can force Omar to confess his crime. How can I force him unless you expect me to use force? No need to use force. What you have to do is just blackmail him. In addition, remember that the criminal Omar is now not in a position to move a limb. Don't be afraid of him. He can't hurt you. In fact, the coward Omar cannot at present fight a 5-year-old boy if he comes to beat him in his bed. So he can do nothing for you. But how to blackmail him? You don't have to worry about that. I will show you how to blackmail him. Now, guys, let us go sit somewhere and plan this mission very carefully. What about our complaint to the police inspector Hussein? Elder sister Farida asked anxiously. Salah says, Inspector Hussein is no longer the right person for us. We need to file a formal complaint against him as well. He is also indirectly involved in the same crime of kidnapping and raping the innocent girl. Chapter 19, Gorilla of Death and Angel of Love visit the 6 criminals. After the end of the trial in the Sharia court, the family doctor of Mr. Osman al Tayyib ordered that the brutally beaten 6 criminals be admitted to the hospital and deposited in the intensive care unit. Despite the doctor's recommendation, still his wealthy brother-in-law insisted that the ill criminal stay in his residence and he should be provided with medical care at home. Accordingly, the hospital staff has sent one of its best doctors and 2 beautiful nurses to take care of the patient. The doctor visits the patient 4 times a day, and the nurses are on standby day and night. The nurse covering the night shift complained that her patient had twice tried to rape her, but had been held back by his physical infirmity. That is why the doctor added two wonderful nurses to the other two. If the sick man tries to rape one of the nurses again, the other nurse must help her and beat the notorious rapist or call the cops on him. This way, the evil patient was kept in check. Meanwhile, the neighbors saw some of the city's dignitaries coming to visit the patient. On the first day, the neighbor saw the famous business tycoon, Mr. Osman Al Taib, coming early in the morning to visit the bedridden man. On the second day, the neighbors spotted the famous politician, Mr. Mahjoub Al Hilali, and his son Hassan entering the sick man's house in the evening. On the third day, in the afternoon, the blessed Imam of the Grand Mosque, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, and the mighty witch doctor Haj Muhammad were seen by the neighbor walking hand in hand and entering the home of the weary man. However, on the evening of the same third day, an unexpected visitor came to visit the sick man. The neighbors were disappointed when they saw his brutal face. The unwanted visitor stood in front of the outer door and started banging on it with a large hammer he is carrying in his hand. Omar's mother, Hajj Sakina, stood near the door and asked the visitor to reveal his identity. I'm a visitor. I've come to meet the man of this house, the knocker says in an angry voice. What is the names? What is the man's name in this house? Is he nameless? The mother asked sarcastically. Silly old witch, I don't like to reveal your son's name because sometimes the police follow us without us knowing. Just tell your son that a prophet from the beast came to see him. How does the prophet of God come to see my son, and who is the monster? It is another name for Satan, and the prophet is one of his demons. And if you don't open the door quickly, you'll see me standing behind you like a black devil with two horns. I will call the police if you don't move away from in front of my house. Oh, you stupid old creatures. Don't you know that the cops would gladly come to your house and lay their hands on your hiding son? What is your real name, sir? Mother says worriedly. She is now speaking in a low voice. My name is Shakush Wad al Haram. Just tell the magician one of these two beautiful names of God, the beast al Wihsh, or the hammer Shakush, or a Satan and his prophet. The mother followed the order of the hammer Shakush Wad al Haram and informed her son. The hidden criminal, the wizard, told his mother that the visitor was a particularly important man and should be let in without further delay. So the mother came back and opened the door and then ran and stood as far away as she could. Her daughter, Badriya, came out of her room at the same time. The unwanted man entered the house. When the two women saw the ugly creatures that had just entered their house, they embraced each other out of fear because they thought a gorilla had come instead of a rude visitor. But when the gorilla started speaking in a human voice, they understood that it was an unwanted visitor. Are you going to tell me whether I should follow my right hand or my left hand or jump on you and kill you, two silly women? Can you wait outside? Badriya says in fear. We will ask Omar to meet you outside our house. Listen, silly and stupid girl, the gorilla man angrily says. I'm not interested in women, but my master, Al-Wish, likes to rape teenage girls. So if you repeat these insulting words again, I will make you spend the night in his arms without a speck of clothing on your sexy body. Sir, you must understand that you are not supposed to speak such dirty language to my good daughter by threatening to take her to your master Al-Wish. She is neither a street whore nor a prostitute for her. Am I an outcast beggar or a stray dog that must be spoken to outside the house? Shakus asked angrily. As far as the current situation is concerned, I'm cleaner than your hiding son. Did you come here to fight with us? Stupid old ogre. I don't have time to waste with you and your foolish daughter. Show me where the wizard, the magician Omar, is hiding. I have 2 minute message for him. With fear and trembling, the mother directed the rude visitor to the room where he should go to meet his friend, the hidden criminal, the sorcerer Omar. When the daughter saw the ugly creature advancing further into her house, she ran into her room and closed the door behind her and felt as if she fled from a black demon. It was when Mr. Hamar Shakush Wad al Haram entered the sick man's room that two nurses on the night shift had just started their duty. And when they saw the gorilla man, there was a great confusion. One of them is about to inject her patient with a large syringe, and when she sees the brutal looking gorilla man, she falls on her patient and injects herself instead. The other nurse finally saw him and finally passed out. Omar mother, Omar's mother, Sakina, brought a large jug of cold water and poured it over the two unconscious nurses. It is a quick recovery. When the nurses returned to the conscious world, their mouths had the strength to scream and shout as loudly as their voices could do. All the neighbors heard their screams and came to the four walls to look. The sick man exclaimed angrily, "What are you doing, you two stupid girls? It is not a ghost. He's a human being like you and me." Then he turned to his friend and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Shakush Wad al Haram. You know, women can be afraid of their shadows." However, the gorilla man felt very insulted, and hence he cursed the nurses with very dirty words and was about to attack them physically, but they managed to escape from him. The gorilla man shouted to his criminal friend, "You live among cowardly creatures. All human I have around me. From the time we were caught off guard until today, I live with cowardly women. I meet the company of brave men like you. When my old woman, Sakina, told me that a man named Shakush Wad al Haram came to see you, I wanted to run to the door and receive you in my arms, but my physical strength failed me. Police dogs have destroyed my bones. How are our other brave men doing in the bottomless dungeon? They were worse than me. When I left the cage, they were dying because of the brutal beating by the policemen. The police beat them like logs and threw them into the dungeon. How did you escape from the dungeon? No human being could escape from the angry police officer that day. Alwish and I were surprised when we read in the newspapers that Inspector Hussein denied your presence. The money made him deny my existence and erase my name from the child list. Did you buy your freedom? Not me. My younger sister's husband had bought me my freedom. He's the richest man in our city. Now the puzzle is solved. We broke our heads trying to figure out how you escape and run away from jail. Run away? You must ask me how you got away from prison. I was half dead when I was taken out of the dark dungeon. None of us will be able to stand on our feet again for at least a month. That day, the angry police dogs beat us and left us unconscious. They shot and killed many of the wedding guests. Do you have any idea who sold our brave men to those sniper, sniffer dogs that day? I have no proof, but the newspapers call him a good citizen. It must be someone known to the beam of the portal and tavern. Whoever sold us should be blamed on the beam in the house. We told him not to let anyone into the house on Friday. Alwish had bet him in advance. The female singers and dancers came from Kassala city. Only 6 of us are from this city. I don't know how that intruder got into the brothel and tavern house, and without our knowledge, he attended the secret wedding. He may have been one of his weekly visitors. If we discovered him among the visiting prostitutes and gays, would have flayed his skin and burned him alive. After this private conversation between the two intimate criminals, Shakush looked seriously at Omar and said, "Man, is drinking alcohol forbidden in this holy house?" "Not at all, but the doctor forbade me to drink alcohol. Even so, I'm secretly drinking beer. And that is not bad. I'm thirsty. Sister Badriya, please bring 2 large bottles of cold beer from the fridge," Omar shouted. "I won't come. Tell your mom to bring it." Badriya's voice is heard speaking from a distance. "Did you scare my sister? She thinks I shouldn't come into her holy abode and defile it. If she wasn't of your blood, I would have raped her on the oven like a dog raping a bitch on the street and then kill her. Don't mind my sister. Oh man, all women are the same in their behaviors and evils. All of them are not fit for anything except for fucking them on the beds and having children. Oh boy, the bed remind me of that pretty girl we beat for the gang leader. If she stands before you without her clothes on, you will fall to her feet and worship her. Not me. Women for me are waste of money and time. For one little female creatures of no worth, all of our best men are behind bars now. You're talking like that because you haven't seen that hot girl without her clothes on our peace master's room. While the two criminals were talking, Mother Sakina entered with 6 large bottles of beer from Abu Jamal brand, or the father of the camel, in her hands. She bled them among the 2 evil criminals. The gorilla man's face showed an ugly gesture, which the magician Omar understood as a smile. Then he took 1 large bottle and emptied it into his big stomach. The hammer Shakush Wad al Haram says happily, "Man, you live in a golden palace. Your house is full of hard currency. Even our ringleader is not as rich as you. These are the blessings of my sister's rich husband. The master, our leader, wants some money. He wants to escape from this country before the cops can catch him. Where is he now? He's hiding under the Red Sea. How did he get there? That is not a safe place to hide." That is why he wants some money to help him cross the border and flee from Port Sudan city to any city in west and southern Egypt. Inspector Hussein is keen to catch him in order to hide his involvement in the crime through the bribery. He knows that, but he needs bigger money to bribe the border guards. I'll give you some hard currency for his escape. Shall we have a bite to eat after this delicious beer? I'm starving. First quench your thirst, then the food will come. A wonderful place to live in. I wish I could live among these lovely nurses. Will you spend the night with me or use it to fly to our post, Mr. Beast? The leader needs money urgently, so I have to see the sun rise in Port Sudan City. After that, the mother was called and asked to prepare delicious food for the important guests. While preparing the food, the two criminals finished several bottles of beer Abu Jamal. Then the food was brought by the Eritrean maid servant Dahra. The two best criminal friends enjoyed delicious food together. After filling their stomachs with beer and food, the magician Omar counted some money and handed to the hammer. The gorilla man Shakush Wad al Haram put the money in his secret pocket, said goodbye to his buddy, the magician Omar, and left the house. Meanwhile, Inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin had set up an ambush around Omar's house since the day he was released. It is an expectation that the brutal gang leader Al-Wahsh or his messenger will come sooner or later to seek help from the sixth criminal Omar. That night, the inspector's policemen saw Shakush when he entered the house. When he showed himself again, they caught him off guard and carried him to their chief. From that time, the ambush was removed. Corrupt police officer Inspector Hussein is eager to restore his image, which was tarnished by the feud between him and the innocent girl. Therefore, he is very happy to lay his hand on the criminal Shakush Wad al Haram. Within a short time, while and through his harsh style of interrogation, he snatched away the hideout of the ringleader, the beast Al-Wahsh, from the gorilla man. After that, he picked up the phone and called Port Sudan police headquarters and informed them about the hiding place of the notorious criminal. 2 hours later, the Port Sudan police command reported the arrest the, after that the 2 hours later the Port Sudan police command reported the arrest of the gang leader Al-Wahsh. Immediately Inspector Hussein picked up his phone and made many calls to many local newspapers, TV channels, and police stations. His message is the same. Hello, this is Inspector Hussein Hassan Hassanin, who is responsible for handling the police case of the recent kidnapping and rape crime of the innocent girl. The brutal gang leader Al-Wahsh, Al-Lajabo, and the mysterious magician have been captured tonight. The sixth criminal, who is called the magician, changed his name to Hammer or Shakush, which he had recently invented to hide his true identity. He confessed that he ran away with his brutal ringleader before I, along with my brave cops, raided the brothel and tavern house where the crime was committed and arrested the other suspected four criminals. For more details, please call me tomorrow morning or visit my office. Despite this important event that took place that day, 2 hours after the capture of the hammer Shakush Wad al Haram, Another unexpected visitor stood in front of Omar's house and knocked on the door. The visitors heard a sweet female voice telling him who is there. A visitor came to see your brother Omar. May I know your name? Walid Hamza. I've never heard of your name before. May I know the purpose of your visit? I met Omar recently and he asked me to visit him. I'm a stranger from Khartoum city. The visitor's quiet voice forced Badriya to open the door and look at him. When her eyes saw the handsome young man, and the handsome young man saw the beautiful girl standing in front of him, they both fell in love with each other at first sight. Badriya opened the door and grabbed it with her hand. Then she asked the visitor to come. The handsome boy wanted to enter, but he had to choose between two alternatives. He would either remain standing outside or walk over and touch the pretty girl's sexy body. Preferred the second option, of course. Another step toward this love has been established. The sweet voice asked the angelic faced visitor to wait until the doctor finished his last visit to her sick brother. She promises to accompany him until her brother is free to meet him. She asks him to follow her to her room. Angel of Love gladly accepted the proposal of the Virgin of Paradise. Then the Virgin of Heaven walked before her angel in the manner that a teenage girl would use when she realized that a handsome guy was following her. The handsome boy enjoyed her walk so much that the third step towards love was taken. The pretty girl was rocking her sexy big ass up and down, sideways, until she escorted the unexpected visitor into her private room. When they sat in the room and looked at each other, they instantly fell in love. One of them became shy, and the other smiled happily. It was the beautiful voice of the Virgin of Paradise who began to speak. Do you work in Khartoum City? I haven't found a job yet. I just completed my studies and attended my graduation ceremony at the University of Khartoum, and I'm looking for a job in this city. Me too. I want to join the university and become an air hostess. But for an air hostess, you don't need to go to college. You can become an air hostess immediately after completing the 12th grade. My sister's husband told me that I had to go to aviation college at the university or I couldn't become a female flight attendant. I don't think there is an aeronautical college or a flying club in our country. And even if there was one, it would train you to be a pilot, not an air hostess. Is the pilot the one who flies the plane? Yes, he is. I don't want to be a pilot because I'm afraid of crashing into the sea. You don't have to be afraid to be pilot. They will train you well. You can fly without dropping the plane into the sea. But I want to be an air hostess. My sister's husband told me that I look so sweet, like a pretty flight attendant. By the way, is your sister's husband a university graduate? He said he graduated from the University of Life. He studied until the fourth grade, then ran away from school and entered the University of Life. Because of this graduation, he became very rich. Today, he is the richest man in this city. He promised to pay all my training fees. Do you want to go to the same University of Life and become rich, girl? No, sir, I'm not a fan of money. I just want to be an air hostess. Without the help of your rich brother in law, I can help you become an air hostess with no money to pay me. But I have already accepted his promise. How do I count two people? So you don't want to be my girlfriend. Also, I didn't say I didn't want to be your girlfriend. How can we become friends without meeting each other? Also, I didn't say I didn't want to meet you again. But where can we meet? I don't think we should meet here. Your brother Omar would kill us if he found out about our secret love. We can meet at my grandmother's house. She's an old woman and does not see as well as she should. I go once a week to clean her house. We can meet there without her knowing. She is a wonderful grandmother. Give me her address and tell me what day I can meet you. Badri immediately got a pen and paper and wrote down the address. Then she read it silently, and when she was sure it was the right address, she gave it to her new lover. Walid then read it silently, rolled it up carefully, and slipped it into his secret pocket. After that, he waited for the day the sweet girl will announce it. Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. Agreed. May I know my girl's friend name? Before Badriya could tell her name to her new lover, the mother Sarah came and shouted at her daughter, how can you sit alone in your room and close the door and talk to a stranger? And you are doing it without my knowledge. This is Omar's friend. When he came, the doctor was still with my sick brother. The mother said angrily, listen, young man, you have to follow me now to my son's room in the main section. Walid Hamza left his romantic relationship and began to think about his visit to the criminal Omar. He found himself in trouble. Should he betray Omar and thus jeopardize his new love affair with his sister, or cover it up and win over his beautiful sister? Before he could answer his question, he found himself standing face to face with the kidnapper and rapist of the innocent girl. Yes, sir, Omar said angrily. Do you know me before? Never. Me too. I don't think I have seen you before. Why did you come here? But I have seen you twice, and those two periods haven't been in a good place. I don't go to bad places. What do you mean by this false accusation? Listen well, magician. I have come here to make a deal with you and Mr. Osman Taib. If you refuse my agreement, I will go directly to the police. I do not understand what you are talking about. The first time I saw you was in the brothel and tavern house where you and your criminal friends raped that innocent girl. I'm the good citizen who directed the police to the crime scene. The second time was before the Sharia court, inside the Sharia court, where you deceived the judge Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha with your false story that you went to the mosque at 4 in the morning, and while you were returning home, some masked men kidnapped you and battered you brutally until a milkman helped you and rescued you. Why didn't you go to Inspector Hussein and file complaint against me? He's the police officer responsible for that crime. Inspector Hussein will be the last person I'll go to. He knows about your crime, but Mr. Osman Al Taif's money has closed his mouth. Are you a cop? I am what I told you, the good citizen who witnessed your hideous crime and then reported to the police. What is your deal? Before I came here, I had 3 demands. But after I met your lovely sister and sexy sister, the number of requests increased by 1. My first request is that you write a full confession of your involvement in the crime. The second is to write another confession stating the bribery of Mr. Osman Al Taib to Inspector Hussein, through which your name was crossed out from the crime. And the third is to give me 10 billion Sudanese pounds in cash. The fourth requirement, which is the most important of all, is that you give me your beautiful sister. Why do I give you my sister? Is she a maid servant or a prostitute? Don't worry about it. She's also interested in me and agreed to be my girlfriend. I do not think that Mr. Osman Taib will agree to 10 billion Sudanese pounds. He may only agree to a billion. Listen, Ter, I did not come here to bargain with you. I have enough information to send you, Mr. Osman Taib and Police Inspector Hussein behind bars forever. Therefore, I dictate the condition, not you. When do you want the money? For the money, I can wait for your brother-in-law, Mr. Osman Taib, to return from his honeymoon. I won't come in person, but I will send my friends to collect the cash. When the money is in my hands, I will attend to my demand number 4. Remember, your beloved sister is an imperative demand for me to keep my mouth shut. What is to stop you from blackmailing us again after you receive all 4 of your demands? My friends will bring with them a statement I wrote about this transaction. When I receive the money and your beautiful sister's hand in halal Islamic marriage, I will send you the confession papers, which you will write and sign now. May I know your name? The name will remain as a good citizen. You don't have to bother about my real name. All this time, the 6th criminal Omar has been trying to figure out how to escape from the trap, but he couldn't. He knows that the good citizen has enough information to put him and his partners in crime in real danger. So he understood that the best thing to do was to write the confession and then leave it to Mr. Osman al-Tayyib and Inspector Hussein to deal with the good citizen. He had to take the papers and pen that Walid provided and write down the full details of the heinous crime and bribery that acquitted him, then sign them and hand them over to the good citizen. Walid read the papers carefully, then put them in his pocket and left the room. His expectation came true when he saw the girl with the extremely sweet voice standing by the door. Most likely she is waiting to say goodbye to him and answer his last question. She exchanged a smile of love with him and quietly said, "My name is Badriya Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. Please don't forget to come on Thursday at 7 o'clock in evening to my blind grandmother's house. I can forget everything in my life, but I can never forget your wonderful promise, your sweet voice, and your beautiful eyes. You have made me your prisoner forever." After that, the good citizen Walid Hamza left the den of the hidden 6th criminal, the magician Omar, with a heart full of love and adventure. Chapter 20. It is just a cover-up story for the heinous crime. All the morning newspaper carried the picture of Police Inspector Hussein on their front pages. He is considered the hero of the hour. Some newspaper gave him the title of Inspector Hussein Al-Azim, or the Great. They greatly praised him for his great achievements and demanded that Al-Wish and his gang be severely punished by the mighty hand of the law. Local newspaper in the city of Al-Gadarif provided very long details about the mysterious 6th criminal, the magician. They stated that he escaped with his beast commander Al-Wish 10 minutes before Inspector Hussein the Great and his brave policemen surrounded the brothel and tavern house. The other criminals call him the sorcerer, the hammer shakush with the haram, and because he always carried a hammer in his hand. He was also born through adultery and thus has no human father. Wherefore, the gang leaders nickname him the Hammer. Whenever the gang leader goes, he takes the hammer with him. He is his assistant. The magician is a very clever criminal. He planned and participated in the kidnapping of the innocent girl. Newspaper also describe how Inspector Hussein the Great, who is now the most senior police officer in the city, arrested Shakush and his ringleader Alwish. The good citizen made another phone call to Inspector Hussein and informed him that he saw a man in a certain place and identified him as one of the criminals who committed the crime of rape. He gave a full description of the criminal as wearing blue jeans, a black t-shirt, large goggles, and looking ugly like a gorilla, and carrying in his hand a hammer. Inspector Hussein the Great and his gallant officers rushed to the spot, but the man in question was not found. However, an extensive search was conducted in the whole city. At 9:15 p.m., the criminal was arrested while he was breaking into the house of a good citizen named Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. He entered that house because he wanted to steal. The policemen arrested him and took him to their headquarters, where he confessed his involvement in the crime of kidnapping and rape of the innocent girl. Inspector Hussein Al-Azim snatched from him the hideout of his gang commander, Al-Wish. 2 hours later, the Port Sudan police force arrested the gang leader. A local newspaper that interviewed Inspector Hussein the Great late at night at his home reported that the inspector said that the victory should not be attributed to him alone, but to the good citizen as well. The next day, after reading the newspapers and seeing his picture on every front page, Inspector Hussein the Great left his house with a happy heart. He expects great things to happen that day. He knows his office will be crowded with reporters, so he put on his best police uniform. He left his house an hour ago and decided to visit his friend, the magician, the criminal Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. That day, the neighbors were surprised to see a police car stopping at the Omar's house. Then a handsome police inspector in a nice uniform jumped out of the police jeep and stood in front of the house and knocked on the door. "Who is there?" a girl asked in her sweet voice. "A visitor came to see Omar," said the police officer in a gruff voice. "May I know your name, sir?" "My name is Hussein Hassan Hassanin." Badriya opened the door and looked outside to see the man with the funny name. When her eyes saw the police uniform, she closed the door quickly and said in a hurry, "Omar isn't out of town. Stupid girl. I have spent half of my life chasing down criminals, and if any one of them should fall into my hands, he wouldn't be able to stand on his feet for months. Therefore, if all people in this city leave their houses, your brother will not be among them. But why do you want him? I recently became a good friend of Omar, so I came in peace. Why did you come to visit him in a police uniform?" "Because I am a famous and great police inspector, and every criminal in this city knows my name and fears me more than he fears Satan. Your criminal brother Omar knows me more than he knows his name. My brother Omar is not a criminal. He's an exceptionally good guy. He's engaged to a good girl and soon they are to be married. Why then is this handsome fiancé bedridden and able to move a limb? Will he marry a disabled pretty fiancée too?" He met with a car accident. The car that destroyed your brother's body is me. And if you don't open the door quickly, I will destroy it and enter and arrest you. Will you please wait until I get Omar's permission? Why do you want to spoil my mood? And remember, you idiot girl, that it is not good for you and Omar when the neighbors see a policeman in khaki uniform standing in front of your house. Finally, the door opened and the greatest police officer in town entered. Badria directed him to where her sick brother was admitted to the home hospital in his private ward. When Omar saw the police in uniform, he jumped to his feet and ran towards the door, but Inspector Hussein thwarted his attempt to escape. When he realized it was his friend, the bribed policeman, he fell on his bed. He remembered now that he was sick and weak and could not stand on his broken feet or run away. Although it was impossible for him to stand up, and running away would be a miracle for him, the cowardly man managed to make these impossible moves. Inspector Hussein considered it one of the seven wonders of the world and a miracle he had not seen happen in his entire life when he saw with his own eyes his criminal friend standing entirely on his broken feet and trying to flee. His body was severely beaten by the police interrogators. Overcoming the shock, Inspector Hussein said, "You had a natural dislike of police uniforms, not because of your police uniform, but because of the unexpected visitor who came here last night. Omar, I don't think you have read today's newspapers. Did the police dogs catch him? Sorry, sir. I mean to say the cops arrested him? Exactly. Exceptionally good job you have done, sir. Another important person was also arrested with him. Yes, he said that there are other friends with him. Ignore his other evil friends. We had arrested him with his commander. Did we take the papers from him? Yes, we got them, but you won't get them back. They were confiscated by the police authority. How can you, sir, allow the police authority to possess such dangerous papers? What papers are you talking about? The confession papers he forced me to write and sign. What papers did you write? And who forced you to do so? The one who came here yesterday and said he was the good citizen who directed the police to the crime scene. No sooner had Omar finished his words than Inspector Hussein fell to his feet, to his knees, and wept bitterly. I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't stop him from forcing me to write them. Shut up, you dirty bastards. You son of a bitch. The biggest crime is to cover up for a notorious criminal like yourself. My life and the life of Mr. Osman Al-Taib have been ruined. Prison for you is like your father's house, but we are good citizens. You are supposed to be behind bars with the beast al-wihsh and the hammer shakush wad al-haram. Sir, did I hear you said al-wihsh and shakush behind bars? Omar was shocked when he heard the beautiful names of his fellow criminals in the jail cells. Yet they are in the dungeon, and you will be with them very soon. How could that happen? The hammer shakush wad al-haram dined with me in this room last night, and we drank beer together. Forget about your ugly gorilla friend and tell me what you wrote in your confessions. I wrote a full detailed confession of my involvement in the crime of kidnapping, rape, and bribery, which acquitted me. Did you include me in the bribery? Yes, I did. You fucking bastards. Did you write it in your own handwriting? Yes, I did. You are the son of a dog. Did you sign the confession papers? Yes, I did. You are a pig. You are a pimp and a rapist. The greatest crime is to cover up for dangerous gangster like you. Your place is supposed to be inside the dungeon with the criminal goons. You are not supposed to sleep here on a comfortable king-size bed among these pretty innocent nurses. You eat and defecate for free with the money of the good citizen Mr. Osman Al-Taib. I curse you, and I curse the day your bitch mother opened her pussy and gave birth to a useless trash like you. You are the firstborn of Satan. You are the pastor of a filthy hooker who had 100 men fuck her ass and her pussy day and night. Sir, the good citizen has certain demands. We can satisfy his demands and thus we can shut his mouth forever. Police Inspector Hussein the Great may have continued to curse his criminal friend the magician Omar forever. He may have assaulted and strangled him to death and then finished the work he had started in the interrogation room. He felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless pit, and the criminal Omar, the magician, threw an anchor at him and pulled him out. He took a deep breath and said, "Do you mean he will blackmail us with those confession papers?" "Yes, sir." "What are his demands?" 10 billion pounds and my sister Badria. If it is an extortion job, we can handle it easily. Let the wealthy man, Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib, give the money, and you can give your sister Badria to him. What did you say? Did you say that the blackmailer wants your sister Badria? Yes, sir. What will he do with your sister? I don't know, sir. This is one of his demands, and we have to fulfill it or go to jail. Why should I care? Let him rape her, kill her, or even sell her body as a slave girl. Yes, sir, we can't do anything about my sister. When will he come to collect his demands? He didn't tell me. He said he wouldn't come in person, but would send his friends to get them. In this case, I must inform Mr. Osman Al-Taib now. When Inspector Hussein the Great said those words, he ran out of the house as if the devil was chasing him with a pitchfork in his hands and drove his jeep at a mad speed while the police siren was on. Meanwhile, the kidnapped bride's brother Firdos has just arrived from Kassala City. He became very angry when he learned about the plot evil plots that committed against his two sisters. He says that if he had been there when those 5 policemen came and dragged away his sister Firdos, he would have allowed them to take her just over his dead body. After uttering these angry words in front of his mother, Sarah, and sisters, Farida and Intisar, he vowed that he would not calm down until he took revenge on the evil old man who kidnapped his innocent sister Firdos under the pretension of halal Islamic marriage. On the same day of his arrival at 5:30 p.m., the friends gathered together at the house to plan their next move. They think they have collected enough evidence against some of their enemies that it will send them behind bars for the rest of their lives. Salah is the first to speak. Before we send the confession papers of Umar to the police and the newspapers, we must use them to force Mr. Osman Al-Taib to divorce Firdos. Farida said, "I do not agree with you. If we do that," she continued, "we'll be in the same boat as those conspirators. We'll indirectly accept their conspiracy as a legal Islamic marriage. Moreover, these confession papers of the criminal Omar relate to the kidnapping and rape of another innocent girl, not Firdos. Therefore, we can't use them to solve our problems. Intisar said, morally speaking, we cannot use a convicted crime case to solve a justifiable crime. Farida asked, what you mean by a justified crime? I meant to say that the law condemns the crime of kidnapping and rape of the Al-Wahsh gang and justifies the crime of kidnapping and rape of Mr. Osman Al-Taib and his gang. Sami said, agree with Farida and Intisar and would like to add that if we delay these confession papers, Inspector Hussein and my father might find a way to escape their crimes. But these confession papers only owe 3 people. Farida asked, what about the other conspirators? Salah said, the others, we will expose them and send them to prison through the recorded confession of Haj Muhammad. Intisar said, I have one doubt. If Mr. Osman Taib is arrested, what will happen to my sister Firdos? Farida asked, what do you mean to say? Intisar replied, I mean to say whether he will continue to cling to her as his legal Muslim wife. Salah said, yes, he will undoubtedly do that. Intisar said, then he takes revenge on her. He would keep her as his wife as long as he is in prison. What more could he do to her, said Farida angrily, than he had already done? Salah said, there is no need to worry because the High Court can invalidate the legality of the void marriage contract. Before anyone could make a remark on Salah's statement, they heard the door open and Walid Hamza entered. He is holding 2 local newspapers in his hands. He then stated that these newspapers reported that the mysterious magician and the leader of his gang, Al-Wahsh, were arrested last night. Sami and Salah quickly snatched the newspaper from his hand. They both read the articles out loud. When they finished, silence filled the room. Salah then angrily shouted, this is just a cover-up story. Most likely, Walid said. Omar told Inspector Hussein of my visit, so the corrupt police inspector came up with this cover-up story to protect himself. Sami asked, do you mean to say that he did not arrest the leader of the gang Al-Wahsh and the Hamar Shakush Wad Al-Haram? Farida said, I don't think there is an arrest. It was just a story invented by Inspector Hussein. Salah said carefully, it cannot be just a story invented by Inspector Hussein. For sure, Al-Wahsh and Shakush were arrested. But the Shakush cannot be the magician Umar. Intisar asked, then where did Shakush come into the picture? And who is this, the Hamar Shakush, anyway? Salah said that this question is difficult to answer. I think Walid's visit to Umar led Inspector Hussein to arrest one of the Al-Wahsh gang's men. Intisar said, I think through this gorilla man, Shakush, Inspector Hussein learned where his gang ringleader was hiding. This is remarkably close to the truth, Salah said. But I would probably add to that Inspector Hussein had forced Omar into selling one of the hiding criminals, and that person happened to be a man named Shakush. Intisar asked, how Shakush got into Omar's house, and the newspaper reported that the police had caught him as he was breaking into his house. Salah said, this is a very good question, and I think Inspector Hussein asked Omar to invite Shakush to his house. And when he came, he arrested him and nailed him for the crime of the sixth criminal, the magician. Farida said, why don't we go to the police or the newspaper and hand them the confession papers of the criminal Umar and the recorded confession of the fraudster, the witch doctor Haj Muhammad? Salah said, we can't do that now. Do you mean to say that these confession papers are of no use to us? Walid asked. The lawyer Salah said, we should not jump to a hasty conclusion so fast, so quickly. Everything we have said is an assumption. We must first try to verify our assumption. Walid asked, how we could check our assumptions? Salah said, we should try to collect some information about the Hammer Shakush. The only person who can tell us about him is the magician Umar. Sami said, I don't think it is safe to send Walid to Umar again. Intisar said, you are right, Sami. It seems that the criminal's Umar's door has been closed in our faces. Salah said, yes. The police inspector Hussein found an scapegoat and put Umar's crime on him and thus acquitted him of the crime of rape and kidnapping of the innocent girl. The good citizen Walid Hamza asked, do you think Umar's sister Badriya can help us? The advocate Salah said, yes, of course. She can at least tell who has visited her house recently. Intisar asked the good citizen, how can you meet and talk to her? Walid said, I was supposed to meet her on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Farida asked how she agreed to meet you and where you were going to meet. Walid said, well, we became friends. We decided to meet at her blind grandmother's house at 7 p.m. on Thursday. Walid Hamza, have you become a friend of our sworn enemies? Intisar inquired anxiously. Not at all. However, before I met Omar, I had a chance to sit down and talk to his sister, Badriya, in her room. I found out that she's an overtly sweet and kind girl. That is why I agreed to make her my girlfriend. We all know that if a girl has a blood relationship with a criminal, it does not mean that she consents to and participates in his criminal activities. Salah said, this means that you love her and trust her. Yes, I love her and trust her. In this case, Salah said, we have to wait until the beloved Walid meets his beloved Badriya. Intisar said worriedly, I don't think it is a good idea to wait any longer. Otherwise, those bad guys will plan another evil scheme and escape from their crimes and due punishments. The lawyer Salah said, but we have no other choice but to wait for Walid to meet his new girlfriend Badriya. You people all just sit here and waste your time in endless talk and in the end do nothing. Those words were said by Brother Osman, who opened his mouth to speak for the first time. All this time he remained silent and impatiently listened to the endless conversation of the friends. I believe that what was taken by force can only be retained by force, Osman said angrily. So instead of sitting here talking endlessly, we should go to that evil criminal, that evil criminal man Umar, and force him to tell us where the vile old man is hiding my sister Firdaus. When I get my hands on that demonic old creature, I know how to take my sister away from him. These angry words of Osman made all friends bow their heads and shut up. Farida broke the silence. My dear brother Osman, I know that you love your sister Firdaus, and we all here love her as much as you do. Also, I know that what happened to her is an outrageous act, an intolerable injustice. Moreover, we are all here aware that what happened to our sisters in Tisara Firdos is an organized crime committed by evil gangsters who manipulated Sharia law to achieve their own selfish goals. If we resort to violence, we may be imprisoned and thus let those evil conspirators escape from their crimes and due punishment. Therefore, my advice to you, my dear brother Osman, and to everyone present in this room is that the first things that we must do is to resort to the law to achieve justice and banish those evil conspirators. If that will not avenge us from our enemies, then we can think of other means to free our sister Firdos from that wicked old man Osman al-Tayyib and protect our sister Intisar from that corrupt politician Mahjoub al-Hilal and his selfish son Hassan. These words of Farida not only soothe her brother's Osman's anger, but finally put an end to the endless talk of the good friends.